As the sun dipped below the horizon, Amelia hurried up the path leading to the imposing facade of Thornfield Hall. In her arms, she clutched the key to the front door, an antique with intricate carvings that felt heavy not only in her hands but also in her heart. It was more than just a key. It was the embodiment of her late grandmother's legacy, a legacy that had been passed down to Amelia after a lifetime spent traveling the world. At 28, Amelia had established a name for herself as an architect, specializing in the restoration of historic homes. But this grand Victorian mansion, with its reputation for perfect acoustics, was where her journey truly began. Stepping over the threshold, she felt the weight of history settle around her like a shroud. Her first night in the house, however, was far from peaceful. As the hours ticked by and the shadows lengthened, an unsettling quiet descended upon Thornfield Hall. The absence of sound was deafening, amplifying every creak of the aging house, every sigh of the wind through the keyhole. It was as if the house itself were holding its breath, waiting. Then came the whispers, so faint they were almost imperceptible, slithering through the stillness like pale ghosts. They seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the house. From the wallpaper, the curtains, the towering bookshelves laden with yellowed paperbacks. At first, their meaning eluded Amelia. She dismissed them as figments of her imagination, the byproduct of a long day and the encroaching darkness. But as the nights deepened, the whispers grew bolder. What started as an unintelligible murmur morphed into distorted echoes of her own thoughts, her unspoken anxieties and fears given voice in a mocking, whispering chorus. Then the whispers changed. They spoke of strangers, their voices seeping through the walls, commenting on Amelia's every move, their words like icy fingers tracing the contours of her skin. It was as if the house itself were a malevolent entity, feeding on her isolation, relishing in her growing dread. Trapped within its four walls, Amelia began to question her sanity. Was she truly alone in this grand old house? Or were unseen presences observing her every move, their whispers weaving a tapestry of terror that threatened to envelop her whole? When she tried to convince herself it was all in her head, a trick of her imagination, the house seemed to mock her with the rustle of unseen garments, the phantom melody of a music box she knew wasn't there. Each sound, each whisper was a nail hammered into the coffin of her sanity, sealing her in a prison of her own making. This is the second episode in our series where fear takes root. And today we're exploring the primal terror of home invasion, a violation of the one place where we should feel safest. Join us as we delve into the minds of those who turn the most intimate spaces into battlegrounds of fear and psychological torment. Home invasions aren't just about physical intrusion. They're about dismantling the psychological barriers that separate us from the raw chaos of the world. It's about confronting the fragility of our existence, the vulnerability that lies beneath the veneer of civilization. In today's story, the home itself becomes a character, an antagonist that feeds on the protagonist's isolation and emotional turmoil. The house is no longer a sanctuary, the battleground where the protagonist's sanity is put to the ultimate test. As the days bled into nights, the whispers grew steadily more menacing. They hissed accusations, jeered at her efforts to ignore them, and taunted her with snippets of conversations that were never meant for her ears. There was a cruel amusement in their tone, as if the whispers themselves were deriving some perverse pleasure from her torment. Was she truly going insane, descending into a madness that would consume her whole? Or was there something more sinister afoot? Something lurking within the walls of Thornfield Hall, feeding off her despair and whispering its wicked secrets into her ear. Driven to the brink, Amelia decided to confront her tormentor. Armed with a flashlight, she embarked on a quest to uncover the source of the whispers. Determined to banish whatever evil spirit had taken up residence in her grandmother's house, she scoured every nook and cranny, examined every painting and piece of furniture, but found nothing. The house seemed to revel in her bewilderment, taunting her with its whispers, its silence deafening in its mockery. With each passing moment, the line between sanity and madness blurred. The whispers echoed in her mind long after she had retired for the night, seeping into her dreams and turning them into nightmares. There she chased phantoms through echoing hallways, searching for an exit that never materialized. And always there was the laughter, the cold, cruel amusement of voices that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Trapped in this waking nightmare, Amelia found herself growing weaker, her resolve crumbling under the relentless assault of the whispers. Yet even in her darkest moments, a spark of defiance remained. She refused to surrender to the darkness, to let it envelop her whole. With each new day, the whispers intensified. Now they swarmed her, a cacophony of sound that threatened to drown her in their malice. Their words, like venomous serpents, slithering under her skin, coiling around her heart. The house, once a symbol of her heritage, had become a prison, its bars forged not of steel but of sound. The walls, once a source of comfort, now mocked her with their inability to contain the torment within. And as the lines between reality and delusion continued to blur, Amelia found herself questioning everything, her senses dulled by the whispers, her mind frayed at the edges. She grappled with a terrifying prospect, that she might be losing her grip on sanity. The house, however, seemed to sense her weakening resolve. It pressed its attack, its whispers evolving into a chorus of condemnation. They accused her of being unworthy of the house, of her grandmother's legacy, of her own existence. And then came the breakthrough, or perhaps it was the breaking. The whispers coalesced, forming words, forming sentences, forming a narrative of torment and accusation. "You cannot escape us," they hissed, their voices now sharp as shards of glass. "This house is our domain. You are nothing but a trespasser." Amelia recoiled. "Leave this house," the whispers commanded, their voices echoing with an ancient power that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house. Leave before it's too late. She wanted to run, to tear through the house, to fling open the doors and escape into the waiting arms of the night. But her feet were rooted to the spot, her body frozen by an unseen force. The whispers swelled, rising to a crescendo of sound that reverberated through the house, shaking its timbers. And then, as suddenly as they had begun, they fell silent. A profound hush fell over the house, broken only by the frantic beating of Amelia's heart. The silence was heavy, oppressive. And then from the depths of the house came a new sound. Footsteps. Heavy, measured steps that seemed to echo Amelia's pounding heart. They were coming for her. Whatever entity had been whispering to her was now making its presence felt in a way that was undeniable, terrifyingly real. As the footsteps approached, Amelia felt a surge of primal fear course through her veins. This was no longer a game. This was no longer a battle of wits between her and some unseen tormentor. She was in mortal danger, and she was utterly alone. Trapped within the confines of Thornfield Hall, the whispers had become a tangible threat, a predator stalking its prey in the darkness. And as the footsteps drew nearer, she knew that the game was up. There was nowhere left to hide, nowhere left to run. All she could do was wait, her heart pounding a death knell in the suffocating silence of Thornfield Hall. The footsteps stopped outside the room, and Amelia felt her breath catch in her throat. The doorknob turned, and she squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable. But instead of the crash of breaking wood, there was a click, the soft whisper of fabric on fabric. And then a voice, low and raspy, as if unused for years. "Amelia, my dear, it's time to go home." The door swung open, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim lights spilling from the hallway. The voice spoke again, beckoning, commanding. But whether it was an invitation or a summons, Amelia couldn't tell. All she knew was that she was trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no awakening. Thornfield Hall had claimed another victim, adding another layer of sorrow and secrets to its already burdened history. So what will Amelia do? Will she embrace the whispers and succumb to the darkness, or will she defy the house and fight for her sanity? And what exactly is the nature of the whispers? Are they merely figments of Amelia's imagination, or something more sinister? Join us next time as we continue to explore the haunting depths of home invasion and the chilling ways in which our most intimate spaces can become our greatest fears. Until then, let the echoes of Thornfield Hall serve as a reminder that sometimes the greatest horrors are the ones that whisper in the dark when no one is listening. You enjoyed this episode? Do not forget to like and subscribe for more terrifying tales that will make you question the very walls that surround you. And if you have a story you'd like to share, please do. Your experiences could be the inspiration for the next episode. Remember, in the realm of fear, we are all storytellers and everyone's story matters. Until then, sleep tight and don't listen to the whispers. Because in the end, it's not the darkness we fear, but the things that dance in the shadows.